make you so happy.
Yes.
And you're so disciplined and structured because they need discipline and structure. Like, I've been getting so much exercise. It's amazing.
Today I was out for lunch with my husband and the cat, and it was so fun.
You take the cat to lunch?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I love it. Is she good in public?
He is, yeah, he's amazing.
Oh, he?
Yeah. Calvino, yeah. Everyone was like, no, like free.
Oh my goodness, Elisa, I've never seen this before. I love it.
Everyone was like, how did you get that? How do you train him? And I'm like, no, it's just, how is it? He's very, like a dog.
Yeah, like really mellow.
Yes.
Oh, what a cutie. Well, you should get a dog too.
Yeah, that's next on my list, to convince my projector husband to
put forth some more energy.
Exactly.
Do you know what kind you want?
Yes. I don't know the name, but they are like little and all fluffy.
Like a Pomeranian, like those?
No, it's like, I will find it. I will tell you. But thank you everyone for joining. This is our first Clubhouse live discussion with my friend and client, Jocelyn. And we are going to talk about feminine magic, feminine energetics, wealth activation. So we are very excited about it. Hi, Samantha. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Lisa. How are you? So, Jocelyn, would you like to introduce yourself, what you do, who you are?
Yes, of course. So, my name is Jocelyn Kelly Reid. I'm an intuitive business and abundance coach, and I help women build and scale service-based businesses online the feminine way. I also really support women in liberating their wealth, their pleasure, their magnetism, and basically moving through the world like turned on women and helping us like undo all this patriarchal work so hard, kill myself for everything vibe. So that we can actually have fun. And just on a deeper level, I really believe that money in the hands of good-hearted women, and of course men too, but I coach all women, is what is going to change the way that power looks on the planet. And so it's really my mission to contribute to that cause.
I love it.
And on a human design front, just in case, because I know your audience is human design focused, I'm a 3-5 generator. And sometimes I don't feel like a generator, though. Why do I need so much downtime if I'm a generator? But the 3-5 part, I very much identify with.
And how it's been for you, like, to know your human design and work with it?
Oh my gosh, it's been incredible. And it's really interesting because I remember when I met you, I mean, now like well over a year ago.
Yes.
Our first kind of connection was we had that Gene Keys reading. And I was earlier in my business at that point, and I was on path, but the biggest takeaway that came from it is that literally, like, I'm here to teach money and marketing. They're in my chart.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've since dived even deeper. And of course, we've been chatting about so much of it. And even to have, like, there's something, like, in my aura where people naturally, like, my energy naturally calls people forward or, like, calls their higher self forward and helps activate them, which explains so much. Now I understand why, like, women will get in my work and then, they'll start manifesting money, more clients, like, all of these incredible things, and we haven't even done anything yet.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was like, oh my gosh, and it's in my chart. Like, that's crazy. And just magnetism and magic and all of these things that I'm so passionate about. Like, it's just so crazy to me that I was already on path, like I said, but learning it and like going deeper and just having it even affirmed and validated, it's really powerful. And I feel that like, because obviously for most of my life, other than the marketing, I have 15 years of sales and marketing experience. So that was always a natural for me. But it's like so cool to have a career that is also fully in alignment with my chart.
I love it.
Like, no wonder it's so much easier, you know?
Totally. Like, it's literally in your gene key saying, like, you're here to be a leader and, speak about abundance. So that's who you are.
That's who I am, and that's what I have fun doing. And I don't know what I would have done. Like, if I'd heard that information 3 years ago, like, what is supposed to be happening?
So I think it would be super powerful that you share like how your, feminine way of leading your business and, all the magic and witch stuff we do helped you really like create incredible, never heard of results in the industry.
Thank you. I mean, it's so funny. So just in the beginning of my journey with discovering my feminine, like I really had to learn, like we were taught this like good girl feminine vibe of like what you learned in Disney movies, right? So many women feel like they're feminine means they're quiet, they're demure, like they're the good girl. And that's like the patriarchal version that actually keeps you small and stuck, which is how they want you to feel so you don't rise. And that has nothing to do with being in your full feminine power. And I'm very like outspoken and fiery and, all the things. And it took me time to realize like, oh, that is being feminine, Not like going into that do, hard work, but just like my natural essence of being fiery and, not taking bullshit and all of that kind of stuff, like is my version of the divine feminine. And I still, there's so many types, like some women are really ethereal, some women are really earthy. It's all feminine. But I think that any woman who dives into this work will go through this natural questioning, like, well, am I or not, because what we learned is actually so toxic.
Yeah.
And so in terms of my business, like I feel like even when I started my business, so, for those of you who don't know me, I did have really incredible results really quickly. In my first year, I did over 300K cash. I'm at close to $500,000 now in under a year and a half. And that's unheard of in the beginning,
Yes. But especially what is special about it is the way you have done it and the way you lead your business and life in a way that is not hustle and do and burnout and masculine.
Oh yeah, I refuse. I mean, even from I've been burned out so many times. Like in terms of my prior careers, like I worked in finance, I worked at startups, like I worked in, like many of us who are here today, I had all of these corporate jobs where it was just like, do, go. And I'd already been in positions of being like physically exhausted, running on adrenaline, highly anxious. Before I moved out of Los Angeles, I had these horrible fibroids. I had to have surgery, which thankfully made me have to leave my job to get perspective. But I've lived so much of that when I started my business, I was like, the reason I'm doing this, in addition to helping women rise and being in my purpose, is like, I want to live my life the way that I want to live it. And I do not believe that like hard work is what, like, of course we work, we get things done. I have a strong business background. I teach it. I know how to be efficient with my time so things actually work and the structure of my business. But I was like, I don't believe that what we learned around like the harder you work, the more you receive. It's not real, because otherwise the hardest working people on this planet like the waiters, the hospital workers, all these people who work around the clock would be the richest people. They're not. So I was like, so obviously this isn't real. And if I just tune into like my own magic and my embodiment and my pleasure, and at least, I always say, and I'm a witch. Like I really do practice spells and like, and all this that honestly just like came through me naturally, like through my lineage. I'm really psychic and all the things. If I tune into that part of me, which is our divine feminine, then like I can create results at the speed of light. And I am kind of rebellious. So I'm like, well, I'm going to take like what everybody else says has to be done and like turn it on its head and show that like we don't need to do that. And it works. I just want to be happy. Like we're all here to be happy. Why would you start a business to be stressed out? It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
It really doesn't. But most entrepreneurs take that culture that was learned from the corporate world and from the system, whatever you want to call it, and they bring it directly into their business. And then are like, why am I tired? Why am I burnt out? Why am I not making money? I'm like, because you are not in flow. And why are you taking the rules of the system that you wanted to leave and bringing them into your business? It doesn't make any logical sense.
Yes.
But people don't do it they're not like conscious of it, or there's a lot of fear that like if I don't work around the clock, I won't make money. And that is a complete lie. Like in terms of me calling in a lot of money at one time, it often happens when I'm not doing anything.
Yes.
And like I have momentum in my business. It's not like, oh, I just started a business and didn't do anything. Like, of course, I have programs. I have a podcast. I have a team, right? I also like have a team, which allows me to go for 3-hour walks a day with the dog and still make money,
Yeah.
It's part of it, right? Because they're doing a lot of like the back end stuff. So I can just use my time and energy on showing up for my clients, showing up for my community, and not like be sweating details. And I was really good about doing that from the beginning. Just obviously, as I've made more money, what you can spend changes, but I figured it out even early, just at much lower price points or trading or whatever. But I was just like, I'm not going to do everything. I hate it.
Totally. Yeah, I always say, even if you are just at the beginning, at least, hire a VA 10 hours a month. It doesn't have to be like this huge this huge investment, but is a way where you can start, feeling supported in your feminine, stay more in your zone of genius, allow yourself to spend more time, doing the energetic work, doing the inner work, be in pleasure instead of, grinding all the time.
And doing things that you aren't even good at that will take you a million years, and someone else will get it done in 30 minutes.
Totally. Like I was spending time on Canva, and I was like so frustrated, and I was like, I hate this shit, and it takes me 3 hours to do a graphic. So just better if I pay someone to do it.
Exactly. Or even my VA team's like $15 an hour. They deal with so much stuff. I mean, I have other support too, but this is crazy. It's like really about something I always talk about is like calling on your healthy masculine to support your feminine. No matter whether it be like the support in your business, the structure of your business, and like all of this is in support of your feminine, because our feminine essence just wants to like free and flow and be creative and all of that stuff. So then she needs like a masculine container to thrive in.
Yes.
And I've always made that like a huge priority. Like for example, women try to build their whole business on like one-to-one clients. Like good luck, you're headed to the end of the road. It's not possible. You will be so burnt out, and it's not time efficient. I'm not saying like don't have one-on-one clients, obviously, but I think there's a lot of value in coming in really early and taking that like bird's eye view of the business and what is going to actually like make sense.
Yeah.
For the long run. Like I'm here, I always say like this is a business for a lifetime. This is not like a sprint.
Totally.
So make it sustainable. And so for me, those things have honestly been a priority from the beginning.
And I think, you know, as women, that's why we talk here about feminine energetics, because there is like this dichotomy very strong in the industry. Like there are women who are overly in the feminine, like it's all about like, oh, the flow and meditation. And then, you know, there is no masculine and no, you know, getting shit done, basically. And then there are the ones who are like overly masculine.
Right, and like go, 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 go. And you might hit the big numbers. Like I always tell everyone when I'm talking about these things, it's not like if you grind, you absolutely won't make money. Clearly, plenty of people do it that way. But you're going to burn out and you're going to hate your business and you're going to be resentful of your clients. And I always say it's actually not in high integrity to allow yourself to go down that road because energy transfer is so real.
Mm-hmm.
So how much, and at least I'm sure you've had this experience, like how much better of a coach are you when you're like rested, you're not worried about things, you're totally present. If someone is running around with like 20 one-on-one clients and 12,000 things to do, you're showing up to every call in this like, or even to your group immersions, wherever, in this really like high adrenaline state.
Yes.
And so I'm like, how is that of service?
100%. And also like, you know, there is, I think that there is a lot of this culture that we see in the online space from women, where, you know, they praise the fact that I'm doing everything by myself, you know, I don't have a team, I don't have anyone helping me. You know, I'm this superhero that is like doing everything on my own. But I think this is like actually conditioning, as you said, from patriarchy, because you know, women in the past, we were like the mother, the carer, the one who takes care of the house, the one who goes to work, and you know, and then it's like, where is your time for yourself?
And also, I always remind women, I'm like, no one's coming to give you a pat on the back for exhausting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no pot at the end of the rainbow. Like, and I do think that's again comes from this kind of like, you know, we live in a culture and things are changing, right? And that's why so many of us are focused on the divine feminine and really awakening her. And I think a lot of men are even wanting to change how they do things too. But we have come from a culture that only rewards the masculine. So there's no example, which, you know, go, 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 accomplish, 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 da, 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 da. And it's like, well, where's the receiving?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just like, well, just go and hope that you receive. And I'm like, no, work on the receiving. Like when we talk about like the energetics, the magic, etc. I'm like, no, work on the receiving. And then when you go, it's just so much more in alignment because you're not coming from like a scarcity place. You're coming from more of like a full nourished cup and an openness. And I think that like that's the kind of like balance that's really important to learn and to remember that like this do it all yourself, you know, like this is so common too, especially in the United States and in Western cultures. It's just learned. It's not real. Like we're in the age of Aquarius. It's the age of we, like how I love collaboration in my business. I love support. I love community. Like these are the things that help us all move forward with more ease. And no one is, you don't get 5 stars for suffering. You just suffer.
Totally. I'm with you 100%. And I totally agree with you with the age of collaboration. Like we all win together. We all have different talents and gifts and geniuses, you know, even from a Jinkies perspective. Like you know, we are coming into an age that in the Jinkies we call the age of synergy and synarchy, where, you know, everyone brings to the table their own genius, and we create a better world.
Oh, I love that. Is that based on like the time period that
Yes.
we're in? I didn't know that.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's very real. And if we even just think about like loneliness and emotional dissatisfaction, or even how trauma becomes trauma because we experienced it and processed it alone. You know, and we all talk about how important community is for healing. Like, I don't think it's just healing, and we're all on a healing journey to unlearn all of this like horrible shit we were taught that doesn't work for any of us. And then on top of that, whatever we've been through on a personal and family level. But I don't think it's just the healing journey. I think it's learning how, no matter whether it's about receiving money, healing, love, wherever, I think that like we are on a journey to like reawaken like community and togetherness. And I know it sounds kind of generic, but I'm serious. Like, you know, they've done those studies of like where in the world people are happiest, and it's always people who actually have like a more of a like community dynamic versus how we tend to live in Western, you know, at least in the United States, how we live here.
Yeah. It's very isolating, very lonely, very like I do my thing, you do your thing, and you know.
And like maybe we'll go to dinner.
Exactly.
So I think this like independence message has kind of gone a little way too far, and that there's a lot of value in interdependence and realizing that like it doesn't make us weak. And you know, it's just the same thing around like not feeling the need to compete with women in the industry. Like, money is a renewable resource. It is always generating. Everyone has a special talent or a special energy, even if they teach the exact same thing, right? Like, we are all here doing what we do, and there are people on purpose. It's not like, oh, there's only one woman who can teach human design. There's only one woman who can teach about money. Like, that wouldn't even make any sense, because there's no way. I don't care what kind of business you build, that you could support every single person on the planet with that. So, like, just logically, it doesn't make sense. And then our energy, our medicine, like, there's just certain people who vibrate with us. And I think it's just really important to remember that, because I think, especially like in the, I don't know what it's like for men in the coaching world, but on the female side, there's a lot of like fear and competition.
Yes. A lot.
And also women were raised to do that with each other, because it was originally like, oh, well, your purpose is to secure a partner. You're in competition with these women.
I love that.
You know, and it's kind of interesting. So I think that's where a lot of sisterhood wounding comes from. But like, well, we obviously don't need to do that, and it's not like our livelihood relies on securing a partner now. Like, we do it from love and joy, but you know what I mean? It's not like caveman life depends on it. Totally. So I just think it's really important, and part of like stepping into our like empowered feminine essence rather than playing into the wounded portion of it that we all were programmed with, is to actually look at those things and choose different ways. And some of it is through the personal work that we do, and some of it is just through just catching yourself and making new conscious decisions and conscious actions.
And how do you see this related to wealth?
Ooh, interesting. I mean, well, I think like receiving is receiving, right? And one, it's the same, people have the same stories around, well, I think what's really interesting for women is like money has been a man's game, you know? So if you just think about, they're the original hunters. They built our society. They built how our work systems work. Like, they basically built the world.
Yes.
You know, and that's not negative, but for us, you know, with obviously us stepping forward, feminism, all of that, unfortunately, to me, the dark side of it, and of course there was the basic things, like, of course we should be able to vote, of course equal pay and equal rights, but I think the dark side, where it got taken beyond like equality, because I feel like it turned into way more than an equality message. It turned into like, we can do it better, and I'm like, why do you want to work harder than they do? Like, it doesn't make any sense. We're built for receiving. They're built for the hunt. So instead of being like, I can do it too, why don't you be like, I'm going to be a magical fucking witch and do it my way?
Exactly.
and have a relaxed nervous system, because we actually biologically, our nervous systems are more sensitive than theirs. But anyway, so I think what happened too, a lot of this is men were making more money. We saw men moving through the world making more money, and we saw how they did it. And the reason that part of the reason women are so burnt out or feeling like it's mysterious, because they're trying to move through the world like men and have this subconscious belief that money belongs to men. Mm-hmm. Or belongs to women who like move through the world like men.
Yes. You know, even when I was working in corporate,
oh my God,
I remember that I did prefer to have like men bosses, because the women were so like turned into men, but playing in a way that was really like upsetting, you know, because it was not in their nature. So they were overly controlling, overly stressed, overly like nervous, and you know, always with the nervous system super high, and it was really complicated to navigate those relationships.
100%. When I worked in finance, I used to say the same thing. I did have a few female mentors who were like really balanced and, you know, like actually were in their feminine and doing things their way, but for the most part, it was these highly anxious and masculine overdrive, perfectionism, terrified to get it wrong, making sure they look good for the boys, not physically, but like, you know, because they're wanting to get promoted.
Yes.
And just like in this super high stress state by trying to do things the way that men do them. And I too preferred having men as managers, because like they were just fucking chill, because they were just doing what they naturally do.
Exactly.
Not trying to like force some other state of being or being in fear.
Yeah.
So I think that's one interesting component. And, you know, I talk about a lot of this in my self-led digital course, Money Queen, is like undoing or helping people undo that kind of programming, because we're basically like, we're building a new economy, you know, we really are. And so when women are, it doesn't even if you work in the corporate world or if you're an entrepreneur, we decide to do things differently and do things our way. Like, if you look at all these women online who are making a ton of money and you can tell they're actually happy, one thing you'll notice about all of them is they seem pretty fucking relaxed, you know? And they're not like working around the clock. And everyone's financial journey, my own, I'm sure yours, like other women I know who are very successful, they just talk about how it just gets easier and easier.
Yes. And that being said, like, I don't want to say that there is no work to put into.
Obviously, yeah, of course.
It's like there is a part of like quote unquote hard work that needs to be done, you know, like, you know, you need to ask for the sale, you need to go on a live, or if you want, or create content, or, you know, create programs. But this is the masculine side of the business that we have to fall in love with, and then, you know, play within this realm with our feminine magic.
Yes, of course. And of course I get things done, but I'd say for me, it kind of just happens in spurts, like as it's aligned. And again, the value in learning how to run a business the smart way is that like you're not scrambling or guessing. You're just like, cool, this is what we're doing, boom, done, this is working. You know what I mean? It's not like this, that should I do it? Should I not? Is this gonna work? Should I do this instead? You know, all of that like guessing game energy that, or overthinking and all of this stuff, is very easy to fall into when we don't trust our feminine. And I do feel like when you trust her and her desires, that what you're led to do, the doing energy, which is our more masculine energy, like it's just more in alignment. You kind of like start to create this figure 8 energy.
Totally.
You know, and sometimes of course we have these phases where you just want to do a lot, like you're in the mood. But the point is, they're not sustainable. So if you rely on those phases to be the only way that you can receive, again, like we're not setting ourselves up for sustainability.
Yes. And you know what is interesting? Like, I've had clients having very like easy launches, And they were like, but that's too easy. Like, that's not possible. And then they were like, maybe if I would done more stuff, I would make even more money. And I'm like, no, like, don't go there, because this is exactly like the type of mindset that is a very masculine mindset. Like, oh, just as if I've done more stuff, I would make more.
100%. And it's really interesting because, you know, obviously I've been working with you during the launch of my mastermind, which has been like a really filled out experience. Because I was like, I'm not going to create this relationship with launches where I'm super stressed out, you know, because the other parts of my business, like the cohort, has been, you know, where I help women build and scale their businesses, has been open enrollment. Money Queens, a digital course, one-on-one places open up when I have them. But the mastermind is one of the first things that I was opening and closing. And I had kind of started to feel that like pressure energy coming on. And like, oh my God, am I going to have to be like hitting it out of the park every day for 3 weeks? Like, fuck that. I cannot do that. And I don't want to build a business where I start getting stressed out before we've even started on every single launch because I know there's an end date, you know? So I was like, no, we're not doing that. Not happening. So then it's like, I love really long launch windows so that I don't have to exhaust myself or, you know, like we talked about, I'm an open throat in human design. I'm not going live every other day and doing crazy stuff. Like, it's not happening. I don't know how anyone does that, regardless of their human.
Me neither, honestly. I have a defined throat and I'm like, what? Like going live every day? No, I'm not.
But I've seen people do it online, like 365 days live.
Yes.
I would die. So I just, you know, and I was in this kind of like interim period where, well, the launch of it, I mean, we're still, enrollment is open till the end of March, but my website was in development and I didn't want to spend money building the website, building a sales page on my old site, which, you know what I mean? It just didn't make any sense.
Yes.
I was like, well, whatever, there's just going to be a new sales page when there's a new site. And so then I had to kind of like work around having a sales page, you know?
Yeah.
And it sold.
Exactly.
It's a sales page now, but as of like a week ago, you know? And it was just so easy and so like non-dramatic. And I just adopted this belief that like all these things that we stress out about, they don't even really matter. Like, yes, sales pages matter. Obviously, I've invested in having a website, and there's so much ease in being able to just show people where to go and not have to explain yourself sometimes. But also, sometimes you just got to work with what's available and have that be enough. And if you believe it's enough, it will be enough.
Yes. I mean, you don't like, if you like sales page, do sales page. If you don't, like, that's what I always say to my client, don't do them. If you don't feel like it's something that you want, you are not like obliged to do it. And you know, and even we talked a lot about sales call. Like, you don't need to do sales call if you don't want to do them. You know, you did all this launch, the pre-launch, without a sales page, without sales call.
Gosh, no sales calls. I stopped sales calls in, I want to say I stopped them in November. Is that right? We weren't working together yet.
No.
I think I stopped them in November because I got to a place where I was like, are you kidding me? There's like 5 of these on the calendar a day. I'm exhausted. I don't want to do this. I don't believe they're needed. I don't care what the industry says. Like, I'm done. And my income didn't dip at all.
Yeah.
Nothing like financially, things just stayed on track, and it's so much easier. And plus, like, just this, it takes this, for me at least, this scarcity energy out of your interactions, because I feel like even though this sales call supposedly just to answer questions and etc., I'm like, no, it isn't. What it turns into is the client being like, do you think I can do it? Do you think it's going to work for me? Here's everything going on under the sun in my life. You're like free coaching, but trying not to. And then basically like convincing someone to pay you, because if the energy on it wasn't convincing, then you wouldn't need it.
Yes.
I do think though that they help people in the beginning, because if you aren't comfortable selling, you're not going to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Just in general, you know, and because they make people so nervous to do, I do think there's something to be said for like learning, for just being able to do them well. Like I would close like 90% of my sales calls, but so I was very comfortable with them when I let them go. I wasn't like, oh, I'm not going to do this because subconsciously I'm actually scared to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are very different energies,
Yeah.
you know? Like you can't just throw a big number on your website and expect to close sales.
Mm-hmm.
You have to actually be like very comfortable with that money and very comfortable selling, no matter whether it's on a sales call or not. And a lot of women have like, you need to remember, like, we're not used car salesmen. We're like, if you don't sell, you cannot help people because they cannot pay you.
Yes.
They don't know to pay you to get help. So I do think though there was value to doing them in the beginning for sure. Like when it was more like, oh, you know, this feels like stretching my comfort zone, but then it just became like, okay, I could do this in my sleep. Like I don't need these.
Mm-hmm. And I think, you touch a very important point here for the, leading a feminine business is like, we have to trust our desires and what feels in alignment. So we are not saying like don't do sales call or don't do sales page. Is that because it's wrong? It's like what does turn you on? What do you desire? Maybe you love doing sales call. You love to talk with people on the phone and get to know them. And do it. Like what matters is that you trust and follow your unique desires, and you trust yourself.
100%. And so for me, I didn't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was how I felt. But I also think it happens to most women. I don't know, actually. Like, the women that I know who are further along, I think that, I don't know, they don't do them anymore. I think everybody kind of outgrows it. It's just like when you're willing to give yourself the permission.
Yeah. But I have clients who make like 50K months and they do a very, very intimate type of work. So for them, it's very important to get on the phone with their one-on-one clients and, really feel if there is the vibe there.
Right. And I just trust my intuition. I mean, I'm doing 50K months and I can read someone so quickly. And it's not like not wanting to answer questions, not caring about the client, not wanting to engage, like I'm too good for you, not that kind of vibe, but just more like, okay, cool, let's like just voice message me your questions and I'll answer your questions. It's not like I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to answer questions. Like obviously people are going to have questions, although what I found, to be really honest, is that in taking them away, it's called forward a lot more aligns women who just trust themselves and don't really have that many questions. It was almost like, at least in my business, by having them there, it like prompted women to look for like things that may be wrong with them that we might need to work on, instead of just being like, all right, cool, I vibe with you, I've been in your content, I want more, let's go. And I also think this is where our free content comes into play. Like, obviously, the further along you get, you have so much more available for free online, like your videos, I have a podcast, your social media presence, etc. Like, if people feel like they know you by the time they come to you, it takes out so much of this other stuff.
Yeah. And I totally like vibe with you, because that's what I teach also in my magnetic branding program. it's like, you know, the industry standards, you know, again, created by men, masculine vibes, is like, you need X% conversion. You need X number of contacts with your client before they buy. And I literally had women who saw a story and bought my programs without questions.
Oh, it's so interesting. Most of the women in my mastermind, not most, I would say about half the women who signed up, I had never interacted before. With before, versus women who've already been clients. You know, just when you know, you know. I don't ask for go when I hire people. I just go when I'm ready. Like, how much does it cost? What are my options? Like, let's go. But just to your point, it's not to make them wrong. They just really are not in alignment for me. And also, like, how would I build? Like, okay, so I'm at, you know, 50K months now. How in the world would we double, triple, quadruple this, and so on? Creating a model that requires my personal attention to that level to close the sale. I would be exhausted.
Totally.
And like, that's not, I'd rather spend the energy on my clients, you know, and on my community. And I know some people build this model where then they hire people to do sales calls and all this stuff, but I'm like, it's just so much drama. That's not where I want to put the money into my business. It's just to hire other people to convince people.
Yeah.
It's still the energy, the same energy within the business, in my opinion.
And the energy of convincing, like, it's not feminine, you know, like overcome objections, talk them through. It's like, no, like we desire women who are like, fuck yes, I know in my soul, I trust myself.
Exactly, because the thing is about becoming successful is like our coach holds space, we teach, we do the things, it's the activation, but the women who get results are the women who lead themselves. And when you lead yourself, you trust yourself.
Yes, totally. And so what kind of feminine practice you like use, or you can give to, you know, people here, some tips?
Oh my gosh, I do so much. I mean, magic is a big part of my work that was passed on through my lineage. I'm just kind of like, most of my channeled messages, for example, which is a lot of how I'm led, honestly, like come through Oshun. She's a goddess. She basically transitions women from maiden to queen, which is kind of interesting because that's so much of my business before I realized that I was working her energy so powerfully. And then magic, and then through my ancestors also. And then the magic just, that kind of, honestly, I didn't really learn it anywhere. That just has been like natural for me, which is why I'm teaching it in the mastermind. And I think embodiment work is a really helpful place to start. Even like breast massage and just like coming back into your body. But I honestly don't feel like it's a tips and tricks thing. I think it's like a put your money where your mouth is and like get in a container, because it's so multifaceted. Like, that's the reason that it's not one thing that got me here, right? It's like, this is why I launched the mastermind in the first place, because it's so multifaceted. And when I looked at myself and I was like, well, how are you doing this so fast? How did you get here so quickly? And it was all of these things. It's like obviously, you know, I understand money energetically and in practice and motion. And it's like, okay, my understanding of money, which is why I'm teaching that next level of money coach, the embodiment work, the pleasure work, unlearning our like unhealthy masculine and healing that feminine part of ourselves that does still feel wounded or weak or not enough, so that she can shine. I think there's a lot of power, and I've also always loved like sound activation. That was like one of the beginning parts of my journey. Because our energy field is so real. And we have to remember, like, we're multidimensional beings for real, not just like in woo-woo land. It is the mental, the emotional, the physical, and your energy field. And sound has always been so powerful. and working with my energy field to like clear things out quickly. And like voice activation is really important. A lot of women, this is a big one. We're like, why are magnetic women? Why do they sound so like? Why does everybody pay attention where certain women speak? And like, because their voice is actually activated. Like my voice has built my business. And even this is a tip. It's like so many women are speaking from their throat. You know, like when we get nervous or scared or like asking for permission and being in that good girl energy. And I'm like, speak from your belly. Speak from your womb. You're not a little girl, you know, but we literally like will fall back into that. And so, especially if we're scared online or whatever, we'll like default into that voice and that vibe. And that's not magnetic. Like you're an adult. We're here to be like women.
I love that.
You know, so we're doing a lot of this kind of work in the mastermind. And also living in accordance to your cycle.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, living with your cycle is so key.
Huge game changer. I just honestly feel like, because my experience of doing all this has also been like through facilitated help. You'll be on Google to the end of time. You know what I mean? And we're about like collapsing time. If you want to collapse time, you get in a container. And that's the speed of that this year is moving with. In terms of 2021, it started in 2020 is like this quantum speed being really available. I felt it starting in 2020. And yeah, so I'm like, work with it. Because that's something that's really cool too. I have a lot of quantum healers in my coaching container, like women that I help build their businesses, and it's crazy because their clients get these results. It's like things they've been working on for like 5 years. You know, getting someone's energy who has that gift, and all of a sudden it's resolved like practically instantaneously, and it doesn't make any sense. But it's like, well, if we believe the quantum field is available, of course, there's people who have access to that even for healing, and like it's real. You know, also something else that started happening to me that's so crazy is like recognizing when I was shifting dimensions, because when we live in this like suffering, the slow road, hardworking, yada yada, it's a certain dimension. It's a certain frequency and it is a certain dimension, and it feels really heavy to live.
Dense.
There.
Yeah.
But it's always available. It's a choice. I'm not saying it's going to disappear. I'm just saying like you get to leave. And in doing all of these things, like I could actually feel the energetic difference when I started to like switch dimensions and like see the world and experience the world. Same me, but like experiencing the world in completely new ways where like the miracles are unfolding faster, right? Like my desires are unfolding faster. Everything's just getting easier, but I'm the same person. And it's almost like doing all of this work literally like takes you into another dimension has been my like felt experience. It's kind of cool.
Same. Yeah, totally. And it's like, you know, again, talking about time, and I work a lot also with the quantum field, that like you, is like time is not even real. You know, linear time, again, was invented and is very masculine based. But women, we live time in a circular way, you know, based again on our cycles. So even in your business, like don't see things in the masculine way. Oh, I've done that. And then the next step is that. And then it's like quantum leap and quantum results can happen so quickly when we are in alignment.
100%. And I feel like something I've always committed myself to is helping make that practical, because, you know, we go listen to the podcasts of all these super famous spiritual teachers and all of this stuff, and it all sounds so intangible. You know, because these are people who are really tapped into the frequency, but it's like just telling people to sit down and visualize and get in the frequency is not going to work.
No.
But when you're so far along, it does work, you know? So I always say it's not that those things aren't real, it's just that we need to do the work to unwind all the energies and all the stuff and actually teach you how to do it beyond sit down and meditate. Because I think that's where, for example, The Secret sold everybody a lie, which is like, just visualize. just visualize and it'll happen. But it doesn't happen until you're really in flow in all these other ways.
Yes.
You know, so that is the work we'll be doing in Feminine Magic and Money, the Mastermind. We start in April. Enrollment closes at the end of March. And I'm really excited. Like, I think this is so powerful for all of us to step into more deeply and like, just we're on the planet to, we're here to learn lessons, but we're here to be happy.
Yes.
And I feel like so much of the work for those of us, obviously, if you're here listening to this, you care about the quality of your life and you want more and you want it to be easier. And then you always get to have more. It doesn't mean like, oh, you're miserable, so you want more. It's just like, well, why can't it just get better and better? We're going to be on the planet for a long time. You know? And so I'm like, the work is just actually learning how to like feel better and better and have it get better and better. And then for the human 3D things that come up, it's like, okay, well, how can I move through this in a productive way so it's not just replaying in my system and in my reality over and over and over again.
I love that. Totally.
You know?
Totally.
So that's what I'm here for.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, love, for this gems and this, conversation. And I think it's so important to have more and more and more in, in the industry and in general, in the world. It's not just in the coaching bubble, but everywhere.
I completely agree. And I have so much respect for you, obviously having worked with you and how you move through the world in your business, and you're so supportive. And like another thing that I think is so amazing about you is you don't do this whole, I think you and I are very similar to not being into guru culture.
Yes.
Where it's like, oh, the coach is on a higher level than like I've had clients where like I've actually invested in their work. And I know you have too. I'm like, oh, she's really powerful. She can help me in a certain area. And just to speak to this like that non-competition thing and how we can all help each other with our unique medicine, I think that's showing up in a very empowered feminine way too, and that's how I've experienced you.
Thank you. And sharing resources, that's so important.
Oh my gosh, of course. People are trying to get help. 100%. Thank you so much, Elisa.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for attending. We recorded this live, so we are going to be able to send it through our email list. And let's open up more of this conversation and follow Jocelyn on Facebook or Instagram if you want to know more about the mastermind.
Yes, please do reach out, ladies. And I've just launched a new podcast, which is already doing so well. It's called Clean Flow, the podcast with Jocelyn Kelly Reid. You can hear it in all the places you listen. So definitely check that out too. And I do have a few more spaces open in the mastermind. I would love to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.